All right. Hello, everyone, and thank y'all for making it to our event. We're very glad y'all are here. We also want to thank the Women's Center for just working with us and being patient with us and letting us do it here. I'm Kelly. I'm May.
I'm Grant. I'm Will.
I'm Elliot.
And I'm Callaway.
And we're going to get started. So our event is called Forgotten Voices. We're basically highlighting Indigenous women figures and what they have done through art to speak for themselves. So first, we're going to start with some statistics. This is from Red Road Institute. 94% of Indigenous women had been raped or coerced in their lifetime. 42% of them attempted suicide at some point. 34% binge drank on a weekly or daily basis after they were initially attacked from some form of abuse. And only 8% of cases of rape victims' first attack ended in conviction. So, I mean, that just speaks for itself. 86% reported being affected by historical trauma. And these pictures are from Native Hope. This is just kind of representing their kind of like symbol when they speak on murdered and missing Indigenous women. It's usually like the red hand across the mouth. On this website, it gives kind of background on what all they go through and the statistics on everything. One of the interesting ones to me was the National Crime Information Center reports that in 2016, there were 5,712 reports of missing American Indian and Alaskan Native women and girls, though the database only logged 116 of those cases. So a lot of these cases kind of go missed or pushed to the side. They're not really talked about at all. I mean, out of 500 or 5,712, only 116 were addressed. Another kind of statistic that they get on their website is Native American women are murdered and sexually assaulted at rates as high as 10 times the average citizen in the United States. So crimes are overwhelmingly committed by individuals outside of the Indigenous community. So I took it into my own hands and I just wanted to see how many the percentage of Georgia college students here knew what even an Indigenous woman was. So I did a little survey. Hopefully it works. What is an Indigenous woman?
You mean like Native American?
Oh.
3 days.
What is an Indigenous woman?
An Indigenous woman, I think, is a woman who is from Native American descent.
What is an Indigenous woman?
An Indigenous woman is a woman of like Native descent, like for example, like Cherokee or something.
All right. What is an Indigenous woman?
Can you use that in a sentence, please?
What is an Indigenous woman?
I don't know.
Yes.
What is an Indigenous woman?
Indigenous woman?
Yes. What's an Indigenous woman? What's an Indigenous woman? What's an Indigenous woman?
I don't know.
What's an Indigenous woman?
I don't know.
What do you know about the Indigenous community? What do you know about an Indigenous woman?
I don't know much.
What do you know about the Indigenous community? What do you know about an Indigenous woman? What do you know about Indigenous people?
Not a clue.
What do you know about an Indigenous woman?
Nothing. Not a bit.
What do you know about an Indigenous woman?
No.
What do you know about the struggles of the Indigenous community? Yeah. What do you know about an Indigenous woman?
Absolutely nothing.
What do you know about Indigenous women?
But horse.
What do you know about the number of missing women that are in the Indigenous community?
I have no idea.
What do you know about an Indigenous woman?
I don't understand the question.
What do you know about an Indigenous woman?
Not much.
What do you know about the struggles of the Indigenous community?
Really don't know.
All right. So that just kind of shows you the amount everyone knows. Hold on. Start over. Okay. Next.
So this is a piece, Oxyopi, done by Angela Two Stars. She's an Indigenous woman who is advocating for the people of her community through this piece, which represents how her community has come together through their hardships and trying to communicate with each other, and how they are coping together to get through their collective trauma. And this piece is like a transformative piece about all the in-betweens that come with that. And I've got a YouTube video explaining it where she can speak for herself. So one thing to think about is how we asked a discussion question on Tuesday about the culture disappearing. And the resounding answer was that no, the culture will not disappear. However, the lack of people who can speak this language fluently can kind of speak to how the culture really is disappearing, and it can disappear if people don't continue to try and preserve it, as she's done here in this piece.
I had the opportunity to read I'm an Indigenous Woman by Cindy Del Rosario. And this is a poem that really helps to captivate the pride that Indigenous women feel about their culture. There's a quote that says, "I am an Indigenous woman, daughter of Mother Earth and Father Sun." I believe that she really states that, or she starts the poem out with this line to signify that, like everybody else, Indigenous women really deserve the same rights and opportunities as everybody else. And whenever I read that, it was kind of hard to read that line and think of an Indigenous person as somebody different than me in that sense. The poem then states that she belongs to an ancient culture that she keeps like a treasure. Not only accepting, but taking pride in your culture is a very powerful move and is very brave in today's world, where negative racial behavior is oftentimes targeted towards those who celebrate their culture.
And then another important quote from I Am an Indigenous Woman, she says, "I coexist with what surrounds me, with the rain, the wind, the mountains, and the sky. I am happy in this landscape." So that just shows how proud she is to be an Indigenous woman. And some background information on Cindy is she's a first generation Filipino American. She moved to the United States at age 14, and the different things she went through to get here made her pursue a law degree. So she went to college in 2014 at the University of California. She got her undergrad in political science and history, and with the degree, she later went to get her law degree at Madison Park Law School.
Okay, so this whole event, we've been analyzing pieces of art that we feel represent Indigenous women's resistance. So the piece of art that I picked is this wonderful book, as seen on the screen, Violence Against Indigenous Women by Allison Hargreaves. And just a brief summary of the book is this book analyzes the work of Indigenous women poets, playwrights, filmmakers, and fiction writers. Organized as a series of case studies, the book puts literature and dialogue with anti-violence debate to illuminate new pathways towards action. Furthermore, this book argues for the important role that literature and storytelling can play in response to gendered colonial violence. This book provides a foundation for reading this literature in the context of activism and the ongoing intellectual history of Indigenous women's resistance.
Yeah, this is the author, Allison Hargreaves. She is a settler scholar of Indigenous literatures and an assistant professor in the Department of Critical Studies at the University of British Columbia. Her book investigates violence in Canada and has appeared in studies in American and Indian literatures, Canadian Literature Quarterly, Canadian Women's Studies, and Canadian Theatre Review. It's won a few awards, the UBC Killiam Research Prize in 2019, the ACQL Gabrielle Roy Prize in 2017, and the Indie Award Silver Medalist for this book in 2017 as well. And then next slide. So for the book is consisting of a lot of like different stories and different ideas. And for this section, it was based on a Canadian film. And I'm gonna be reading off a section of it in the middle. And you guys can read along that once you get there. You can change the slide. The hoodlum meets her head on, but Delia dispatches them in short order, dodging his swipes and disarming him of his switchblade. She then delivers a series of fierce combination punches that see him laid up, prone on a pile of alley refuse in a matter of seconds. Notably, this fight scene is filmed in a series of tight, over-the-shoulder shots with Delia and a constant. By means of several match cuts, however, the hoodlum and the cop alternate as the object of Delia's wrath. In one shot, Delia's right hook is destined for the cop's face. In the next, it's hoodlum who recoils from the impact. These taut visual rhymes have a striking effect of implying seamless continuity and action of purpose, but with the following disorienting result. As Delia rains down a punishment from which neither cop nor hoodlum escape, the tidy, mortal dichotomy of the open cold chase scene dissolves before our eyes. In the tradition of the revenge narrative, Delia presents an alternative moral universe in which male violence is punished by an avenging only survivor. This is captured visually by the fight scene's dissolution of the white, male, homosocial contest of cops and robbers. A contest of and bloody body of the hoodlum, Delia's dispassionate voiceover explains, I've been on this warpath for six long, lonely years, but white boys have been having their way with Indian girls since contact. Forget what Disney tells you. Pocahontas was 12 when she met John Smith. It's pretty little lies like this that hide the ugly truth. All right. So this Canadian film presents a different take on the revenge and violence from society usually is shown in films. It challenges gender roles by showing a woman assuming a predominantly male role. Now, before the part I read, it was explaining like a whole motorcycle scene, and it was explaining like a mysterious figure, and you weren't supposed to know who it was, but it was giving hints to be like it would be a male role, and then it's finally revealed when she takes her helmet off that's a woman. So that was the important scene. In the film, Delia represents a resistant Indigenous Canadian woman during the conflict between the two characters. With the reference to Pocahontas at the end, she is trying to tell the audience how times need to be changed and the truth of the abuse within the Indigenous culture. She also uses this line to reveal the lies that have been hidden for so many years. This is.
Oh, sorry.
Very good. And so when I read the book, I chose to pick a documentary called Finding Dawn by Christine Welsh. And it's a 2006 documentary film that looks into the fate of about 500 Indigenous women that have been missing or murdered in North America. The documentary illustrates the deep historical, social, and economic factors that contribute to an epidemic of violence against Indigenous women. It even goes further to present the ultimate message that stopping violence like this is everyone's responsibility. And my favorite, because the documentary covered it talked about 500 women. And so my favorite case, or the case I found most interesting, was when it covered the story of Dawn Cray, which is what the documentary is named after. And she was from a poor area, something that is sadly common in many of the cases of missing Indigenous women. And she was reporting missing, but it took months for police to do anything. Eventually her DNA was found, but her case did not come out of, or her case did not even come among the murder charges allotted. She is just one of many cases of these injustices that are happening to Indigenous women.
And by this event, we're trying to let everyone learn what we learned, because if I'm being honest, and I'm sure we can all say this, before this event, we had no idea the factors and tolls that were taken against the Indigenous community. And learning about them has really just opened my eyes to realize that really stuff goes on that you just don't know about in this world. And I think that it's our job, to just be an advocate for certain communities that most no one knows about their background. And it's really important for us and special for us to have this opportunity to share with y'all what we have gotten to learn from this. So now we're gonna talk about some questions. Please feel free to answer.
Please, and keep in mind, the best answer will get a prize that is worth $20. So hopefully that will motivate y'all. So first one, why do you think one missing Indigenous woman impacts the whole Indigenous community? So just anything, there's no wrong answer. Anything will do. Any thoughts? $20 prize.
Maybe she's a native speaker, maybe that she is very important in the community, and also the community is small as is.
That ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like you lose, your community is already so close knit, so small, and then you just lose one important, not even important, I mean, everybody's important, but like, you know what I mean? You lose that person and it's like, why does this keep happening? I think that's really what they're trying to say and show everyone.
And the person could be like responsible for teaching the younger generation. So like, if their voice is lost, then the future generation
Yeah,
is greatly hurt by that.
And then- Sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, so we should, yeah. I think also just thinking about how communal, right, and how community focused Indigenous cultures tend to be. I would imagine that it's not necessarily seen as just an individual going missing, right?
Right.
It's much bigger, and as we'll have discussed too, like the number of women that go missing, it's at this point is not just one, right? Like it's not like a random uncommon occurrence, right? It's something that does keep happening, like you.
Yeah. And even when you look into like, not just missing, look into the rates and violence that goes on in the community, like that's happening every day, all the time for them. And it goes so unnoticed because, I mean, like their communities have specialized officers for their community because they are not well represented. It's not like if we were to call the police, I mean, usually things would get handled, but with them, it's kind of like they've been pushed to the side for so long now that now it's kind of like the new normal for them to just be pushed to the side, not really paying attention to their needs or anything.
The second question is, how do you think the younger generation of Indigenous girls can help change their status in society and have people respect them?
No wrong answers.
If you think they can.
Yeah. Anything.
I mean, I think like, what's her name? I wrote it down. Cindy de Bell Rosario, they just like, you know, fight for what they want and obviously like keep the memory of like their past, but like move forward and just fight to be, you know, get a law degree or be better.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Also with this newer or younger generation and technology, it's easier to reach out to people. So I think that the more attention they could bring to this topic, the better. That's one thing the younger generation can do.
Because if they make the topic like well-known, like as we saw in Kelly's video, like this is just a specific example at Georgia College, like no one really knew anything.
Pays attention.
Like I didn't know anything. I was the same thing. Like until we did this event and we did all this research, saw the numbers. It's like,
And it makes you feel bad that like you don't know anything about it, but it goes so unheard of. There's no chance for you to really hear about it or learn about it. So, and even going to your artist, I mean, she made a name for herself.
And it's not an accident, if we're gonna be real, that people don't know the severity of this issue. Because if we're gonna be honest, these voices are oppressed. And that's why it's kind of our job to advocate for them. So what are some ways we can do that?
Here at Georgia College and other communities. Last question.
Oh, both of y'all go. We love it.
What we're doing now is really helpful. I think more events and like just bringing more awareness to what's going on
Definitely to help people understand like what's happening in the street and that we don't know what's happening like to this day.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all just need to educate ourselves more. I think that's like the first step, and then once you educate yourself, you can do events like this, and you can just even like talking to your friends about it. It's just already advocating for it and telling people about it that they might already know or already not know, because like in your video, there was literally like 3 people who knew about it. And so just telling anybody, like just being like, yeah, this goes on, it's just advocating for it.
Yeah, because I mean, it is sad to see like how many people just here in the video didn't know about it. And like, this is also sad too. Like, I already knew going into it, not many people were gonna know what even an Indigenous woman was, which was really like, once I learned about it and all of the struggles they face, it was really hard to just see how underrepresented they are and how just they get so pushed to the side and no one really pays attention. And like you said, I think it's
It's not an accident.
yeah, it's not an accident.
Maybe also having like classes available or maybe having a native woman be professor here.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Like a GC2Y,
yeah.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there already is a GC2Y. Maybe a GC2Y more focused specifically on this.
On even unheard of or like cultures that go
Yeah.
unheard of. Like
Yeah.
that could be a broad
Like silent voices, just like a broad, like a group of communities that don't.
something like that could definitely kind of shape our community to be even better, because I feel like Georgia College in itself is already good enough or like very good about advocating for everyone with like the different centers we have and clubs we have. But at the same time, if we could do even more, I feel like it would be really helpful to a bunch of people.
And also everyone being involved in that
Mhm.
stuff and not just like sitting around being like, oh, I know we have the hub, but I've never been there.
Right.
Like actually go and like see what it's like.
Having people participate rather than just being able to say, oh, I know it's over there. But do you necessarily know what it does? Do you know what it is an advocate for, you know? So we hope that this event has really just kind of informed you, because it has definitely informed us. And we hope that y'all can go and maybe be an advocate for the Indigenous community or any minority community, really. But we have a little survey and we're gonna like use this as attendance too, so if y'all wanna do this.
And we will discuss who's gonna win the prize and will award the prize.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yes, participating. It's all of you, it's your vote.
Oh,
But yeah, really, thank y'all for this coming to. I know it did a lot, so.